You did not arrive here by mistake. There is a reason your path crossed with these words. Every moment before this one has been pulling you toward an invisible threshold. There is a force inside you that has been waiting for the right signal to activate. It begins quietly. It starts long before you understand it with the mind. It begins as a subtle pressure in the heart, a whisper, a shift in the way life feels, a sense that something deep within is waking up. Life has been sending you messages in patterns, repetition, synchronicity, people appearing at the exact moment you needed them, breakdowns happening at the exact moment when the old identity could no longer hold. You believed you were simply moving through another chapter of your story, but you were being called, not by destiny, not by fate, by the intelligence of the field. There is a moment in every life when the external world starts losing its authority over you. The things that once controlled you no longer have the same weight. The validation from others becomes meaningless. The fear of judgment begins to dissolve. You start questioning what you once accepted without hesitation. You feel the old reality resisting you. You sense the old version of yourself slipping away, not because you are failing, because you have outgrown it. This is the calling signal. It shows up when you least expect it. It arrives in silence. It pulls you away from everything that once defined you. You begin to notice that ordinary life no longer satisfies you. Conversations feel hollow. The things you used to chase start losing their importance. The goals you once thought were yours now feel like someone else's voice inside you. The life you built feels too small. You sense a greater identity trying to break through the surface. This is not confusion, it is initiation. Most people mistake this pulling sensation as anxiety. They call it exhaustion. They call it burnout. They think they are losing direction. But the opposite is true. You are being redirected. The field is rearranging your life. It is removing everything that cannot travel into your next timeline. The old life must collapse so that the new one can emerge. There is a frequency inside you that has always known you were meant for more. A knowing that you are standing at a threshold. You are not waiting for permission. You are being summoned. You are walking toward a reality that has already been prepared for you. Everything that has fallen apart was not a punishment. It was an alignment. The calling signal is not dramatic. It never arrives with noise. It arrives when you are finally ready to hear the truth beneath all the noise of the world. It arrives the moment you stop forcing the life that no longer fits. It shows itself in the moments when you feel stuck, when it feels like nothing is moving. But the truth is everything is moving, just not on the surface. The shift begins in the unseen. The field speaks in silence. It rests between your thoughts. It is the impulse that pushes you toward new places, new people, new identity. The calling signal is the moment the field makes contact with the deepest part of you. It is the moment when the old consciousness can no longer hold your frequency. Look at your life. Look at the chapters you have just walked through. They were not random. They were not failures. They were preparation. The struggle you went through was not chaos. It was refinement. Even the loss was sacred. Even the heartbreak was instruction. Every moment of your past has been arranged to bring you here, to this exact point in time, to this exact moment of awakening. The calling signal begins with a question that comes from the deepest part of you. Am I meant to stay the same? Am I meant to continue repeating the same patterns? Or is there something else calling me forward? This question does not come from fear. It comes from memory. Your consciousness remembers what the mind has forgotten. It remembers the version of you that has always existed beyond limitation. You feel this signal most clearly when life becomes uncomfortable, when the old identity becomes too heavy to carry, when the familiar path no longer feels safe, when you can no longer pretend to be the smaller version of yourself. The field starts removing everything that keeps you in the past. It separates you from people who drain you. It closes doors that would lead you back into old patterns. It dismantles the illusions that once held you in place. This is the moment when most people turn back. They try to rebuild the life that is falling apart. They try to hold on to identities that are already dead. They try to stay in a timeline that has already expired. But you are not here to go backward. You are not here to shrink into the familiar. You are here because the field wants your next evolution. The calling signal is not a gentle request. It is a command from your highest timeline, a command to rise, a command to step forward, a command to shed what is no longer true. It asks one thing from you. Take one step beyond the person you used to be. Take one step into the unknown. Take one step into the version of yourself that has been waiting. There is a reason you are still here. There is a reason you are reading these words. There is a reason you cannot return to the old reality. Your identity is already shifting. Your consciousness is already expanding. The field has already chosen you. The signal has already begun. Reality is not what you think it is. The physical world is only the outermost shell of existence. What you see, touch, and measure is the surface of a deeper mechanism that has been shaping your life long before you became aware of it. Every moment you have ever lived was influenced by forces moving beneath perception. They do not reveal themselves through logic. They reveal themselves through sensation, intuition, a pull in your chest, a whisper in the mind, a moment when you know something without knowing how you know it. There is a veil that separates the ordinary sense of life from the greater dimension that surrounds it. Most people mistake the veil for a wall. They think reality is a fixed structure with clear boundaries. They believe that everything can be explained through physical cause and effect. They cling to the surface because it feels predictable. It feels familiar. But the truth is this: the veil is thin. It is permeable. It shifts and moves like light on water. It allows glimpses into the deeper layers of existence when your consciousness quiets enough to notice. You have already experienced those moments when the veil becomes transparent, when time feels flexible, when you meet someone and it feels like you have known them for years, when a decision that should have taken months is made in a single breath, when you sense an opportunity long before it appears. These are not accidents. They are openings in the veil. They are windows into the quantum layer beneath the physical world. The reality you have been taught to see is only one version of reality. It is the version constructed by memory and habit. It is shaped by belief and fear. It is shaped by the stories you inherited from family, society, and culture. But beneath that mental architecture lies the true field. The field is not separate from you. It is the living intelligence that surrounds and responds to your awareness. When your perception shifts, the field shifts with it. When your consciousness expands, the veil dissolves. There is a reason spiritual breakthroughs and personal transformation often begin with discomfort. The veil begins to crack the moment the old world can no longer contain your identity. You feel the edges of your life tightening around you. You feel the pressure of a reality that is too small for the version of you that is emerging. The veil does not open when you are comfortable. It opens when you are ready to cross into a higher expression of yourself. Imagine for a moment that your life has been guided by two currents. One that you can see, the visible world of action, decision, people, and physical results, and another that you cannot see, the invisible flow that pulls you toward the places you are meant to be. The visible world moves in straight lines. The invisible world moves in patterns. It is the pattern that shapes your destiny. It is the invisible current that has been guiding you toward moments that seem impossible to explain. Every major turning point in your life was not random. Every person who arrived at the right moment was not coincidence. Every ending and every beginning was part of the deeper architecture of your timeline. The veil between realities is not meant to block you. It is meant to prepare you. It allows you to grow into the identity that can cross into the next dimension of experience. There is a quiet intelligence operating behind every choice you have ever made. It speaks in symbols. It speaks in instinct. It speaks through the unexpected. The universe uses everything as communication. A delay, a detour, a closed door, a sudden opportunity. Everything becomes a signal. Everything becomes instruction. The veil is not hiding reality. It is teaching you how to interpret it. The most powerful moments of your life have always been the moments when you slipped through the veil without knowing. When you trusted something deeper than logic. When you followed a feeling that made no sense. When you let go instead of forcing. Those moments were not weakness. They were glimpses of your true power. They were moments when your consciousness aligned with the field instead of the limitation of the physical world. The veil does not show you a different world. It shows you the real world. The physical dimension is temporary. It changes with time. It changes with circumstance. The deeper layer of reality does not change. It has always been there. It is the foundation beneath your experience. It is the blueprint that holds together every version of your life. When you begin to see through the veil, you begin to see that your life has never been a series of isolated events. It has always been one continuous signal calling you forward. Look at the turning points that brought you here. Look at the moments that shaped you, the pain that broke you open, the lessons that changed your direction, the sudden clarity that arrived in silence. All of it was the veil thinning. All of it was the deeper reality revealing itself. Every collapse was preparation. Every loss was alignment. Every ending was the field making space for your true identity. The veil becomes clearer when you stop resisting, when you stop trying to fit into the life you have already outgrown, when you stop clinging to the familiar. The moment you release the old reality, a new reality starts forming around you. The field responds to movement, not fear. It responds to confidence, not doubt. It responds to the identity you choose to embody. There is a moment in your evolution when you stop asking for proof. You stop asking for guarantees. You stop asking for signs. You begin to see that the signs were always there. You begin to realize that the field has never been silent. The veil only looked solid because you were not ready to see through it. The veil between realities is thinning for you now. You would not be here if it was not. The questions you are asking, the discomfort you are feeling, the desire for change that does not leave you. These are not random thoughts. They are signals from the deeper reality that is calling you forward. You are being prepared to move beyond the surface of life into the dimension where consciousness becomes the architect of destiny. You are standing at the edge of two worlds, one that wants to keep you small and one that is inviting you to expand. The choice is not between safety and risk. The choice is between illusion and truth. The veil does not separate you from the infinite. It only separates you from the version of yourself that still doubts. And when that version falls away, when you step into the identity that sees beyond the surface, the veil disappears, and the deeper reality becomes your home. There is a moment in every life when something breaks, not the kind of breaking that destroys you, but the kind that wakes you. The fracture never arrives as a dramatic explosion. It begins as a single crack in the structure of the world you once believed was solid. The map of your reality starts to shift. The story you were told about how life works loses its power. The identity you built to survive becomes too heavy to carry. The first fracture is not a sign of failure. It is the beginning of truth. It happens when the old life can no longer contain the version of you that is emerging. You sense the change long before you understand it. You feel misaligned with your surroundings. You feel a distance between who you are and the life you are still trying to maintain. You feel pulled out of the familiar rhythm. You do not fit into the world you inherited. You begin to question what you once accepted without thinking. The first fracture is the collapse of an illusion. It is the moment when reality reveals the pieces you never looked at directly, the truth that you have grown, the truth that you are being prepared, the truth that you have been moving toward a version of yourself that has not yet appeared in physical form. The fracture is the field pushing your old identity to its breaking point. It shows up in the moments you wish would pass quickly, the relationship that no longer feels alive, the job that drains the spark out of your soul, the friendships that feel like echoes of a past self, the routines that once gave you comfort now feel like a cage. You have felt the fracture in the way your heart tightens when you try to shrink yourself into places you no longer belong. You have felt it when silence became louder than the world around you. This is the moment most people resist. They try to fix what is not meant to be saved. They try to patch the crack instead of letting the light through. They cling to the identity that is dissolving because it is familiar. But the first fracture does not ask you to fix anything. It asks you to listen. It asks you to stop pretending that you can continue living at the same frequency. It asks you to stop forcing the life that is already falling away. The fracture is the point where truth enters. The truth that your next version cannot be built on the foundation of your old one. The truth that your evolution is not optional. The truth that the timeline you were born into is not the timeline you are meant to stay in. The fracture is a signal that your old identity has reached its limit. It is the point where the field begins to rearrange the architecture of your life. You have been conditioned to fear the breaking. You have been taught to believe that stability is safety. You have been taught to value consistency over evolution. But the universe does not reward the identity that stays the same. It rewards the identity that allows itself to be transformed. The fracture is the universe interrupting your pattern. It is the field recalibrating the direction of your life. The moment when your expectations fall apart is not the moment you lose control. It is the moment you begin to see clearly. You recognize that the world you built was shaped by fear, by survival, by the need to be accepted. You realize that the identity you carried was not your own creation. It was a reaction to the world. The fracture reveals the truth you are not ready to face. The life you have been holding on to is too small for the magnitude of who you are becoming. The first fracture always brings discomfort. You feel numbness, confusion, pressure in the heart, questions that refuse to leave. Why does the life I built no longer feel like home? Why do I feel like I am standing in a doorway? Why do I keep hearing the voice of my future calling me forward? The fracture is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something is awakening. The old identity begins to crack because the new identity is already forming. It is trying to rise through the surface of your consciousness. It is trying to enter your life. You can feel it in the restlessness that does not disappear. You can feel it in the longing for something you cannot describe. You can feel it in the moments when you know that every ending is actually a beginning. The first fracture is the moment the veil begins to thin. You begin to see beyond the surface of your life. You start to notice the deeper patterns, the synchronicities that bring the right people at the right time, the messages that arrive in silence, the intuition that pushes you toward decisions you cannot explain. You begin to understand that there is a greater intelligence operating in the background of your life. You do not choose when the fracture arrives. It chooses you. It arrives when you are ready to evolve. It arrives when the old identity can no longer guide your steps. It arrives when you have outgrown the emotional patterns that once protected you. The fracture is the moment when your soul declares that it will no longer live a life built on fear and limitation. It wants expansion. It wants truth. It wants the version of you that has been hidden beneath survival. The fracture opens a doorway. You are no longer trapped in the timeline you were handed. You are no longer bound by the expectations of others. You are no longer repeating the patterns of the past. You have crossed into the space where you can create a new reality. The fracture is the beginning of sovereignty, the beginning of self-remembering, the beginning of claiming your identity beyond the world you were born into. The old world will try to pull you back. It will try to convince you that you are making a mistake. It will try to tell you that you are losing control. It will try to remind you of the life you once lived. But the truth is simple. The fracture is not happening because you are breaking down. It is happening because you are breaking free. Every transformation begins with the moment something no longer fits. Every evolution begins with the moment the old life starts to fall apart. The first fracture is the field guiding you away from everything that is too small for your next identity. It is the reality that was never meant to be permanent. Look at your own life. Look at the places where the fracture has been calling you. Look at the patterns that have been repeating. Look at the moments where you can no longer pretend. These are not signs of collapse. They are signals of initiation. They are proof that your old identity is cracking open so that your true identity can emerge. The fracture is not the end. It is the beginning of the shift, the beginning of the new timeline, the beginning of the life you were meant to enter. The fracture is where your transformation starts, and once it begins, it does not stop. It expands. It reveals. It breaks through every limitation you once believed was unbreakable. The fracture is the doorway to your next reality, and the moment you walk through it, you will never return to the life you outgrew. Everything changes the moment you realize that the next version of your life does not appear on the outside first. It begins inside you. Transformation is not a straight line you walk toward. It is a threshold that opens within your consciousness. The quantum gate does not exist in the physical world. It is an inner event, a shift in perception, a moment when the deeper part of your identity steps forward and takes control. The gate opens when your awareness expands beyond the limits that used to define you. The old identity was built from fear and survival. It was shaped by expectation and the need to prove yourself. The new identity is built from truth. It is built from the knowing that your life no longer belongs to the past. It belongs to the version of you that is already waiting in the future. You do not walk through the quantum gate by effort. You walk through it by alignment. The moment you stop negotiating with your old self, the moment you stop shrinking into familiar patterns, the moment you stop forcing what has already collapsed, the gate begins to reveal itself. There is a point in every spiritual evolution where you are no longer satisfied with repeating the same story. You feel a pull to something greater. You feel an intelligence guiding you. You feel direction without explanation. That pull is the quantum gate. It appears the moment you stop living through the lens of your old identity and begin responding to life from a higher level of awareness. The quantum gate is not a place you find. It is a frequency you reach. It opens when your inner world becomes stronger than your external circumstances. It opens when your intuition becomes louder than your fear. It opens when you recognize that you are not simply moving through experiences, you are shaping them. Look back at the moments when your life changed direction. Notice how they were never driven by certainty. They were driven by a knowing that you could not ignore. They were driven by the voice that comes from the deepest part of your consciousness. That voice comes from beyond the veil. It comes from the field. It comes from the version of yourself that already knows where you are meant to go next. The quantum gate is the moment your consciousness touches that version. The boundaries between your current reality and your next reality begin to dissolve. You stop living through memory and start living through intention. You stop reacting and start creating. You stop waiting for the world to open doors for you and you begin opening them from the inside. Most people never cross the quantum gate because they try to bring their fear across with them. They try to carry their old identity into their future. They try to control what is not meant to be controlled. But the gate only opens when you let go. Let go of the beliefs that keep you small. Let go of the patterns that drain your energy. Let go of the identity that was built to protect a version of you that no longer exists. Crossing the quantum gate is the end of your attachment to the life you were handed. It is the moment you claim the life you were designed to live. The gate does not ask you to fight the past. It asks you to rise above it. It asks you to become the observer. It asks you to separate who you are from who the world thinks you should be. The world will try to convince you that you are wrong for evolving. It will tell you to stay where you are safe. It will tell you to stay where you are predictable. But the quantum gate does not open for safety. It opens for expansion. It opens for growth. It opens for the identity that refuses to stay small. There is a sacred moment when you feel the gate opening. It happens in silence. It happens when the noise inside you settles. It happens when you realize that your future is not something you search for. It is something you allow. The quantum gate responds to your willingness to step out of survival and into consciousness. It responds to your decision to trust the invisible more than the visible. It responds to your decision to walk into the unknown. The gate does not reveal your future all at once. It reveals the next step. It reveals the next person. It reveals the next opportunity. The gate opens as you move. It is shaped by your decisions. Every choice you make either strengthens the opening or closes it. Every thought either aligns you with your highest timeline or anchors you to your past. You are the one who determines which world you step into. The quantum gate is the bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. It is the threshold between limitation and infinite possibility. It is the point where you begin to understand that your life was never meant to be shaped by circumstance. It was meant to be shaped by intention. The moment you stop living through the lens of fear and step into the identity that knows its true power, the gate opens wider. You feel the shift in your body. You feel a clarity that was not there before. You feel a certainty that does not need proof. You feel an inner command that replaces doubt. The quantum gate is not a destination. It is a state of consciousness. It is the moment when you stop trying to become someone and you realize that you already are. The gate does not ask for perfection. It asks for presence. It asks for awareness. It asks for courage. The courage to leave behind the version of yourself that no longer serves your evolution. The courage to step into uncertainty, the courage to trust the intelligence of the field more than the comfort of the familiar. Crossing the quantum gate is the moment you step into alignment with your higher self. You begin to see that your life is not a random collection of events. It is a precise sequence of signals guiding you to awaken. Every challenge was a teacher. Every heartbreak was a recalibration. Every delay was protection. Every ending was initiation. You are standing in front of the quantum gate now. You would not be here if you were not ready. The gate does not open for everyone. It opens for the ones who can feel their future calling them. It opens for the ones who refuse to live asleep. It opens for the ones who are ready to take command of their destiny. The gate is open, not outside you, inside you. All you need to do is step forward. All you need to do is align. All you need to do is say yes to the version of yourself that is already waiting. The quantum gate is the moment your life stops repeating and begins expanding. Once you cross it, there is no going back. The path ahead is not familiar, it is not predictable, but it is true. It is yours, and the field will guide every step you take beyond this point. There comes a moment when your consciousness stops being a passenger in your life and becomes the one holding the wheel. That moment is the awakening of the observer. The shift does not arrive as a dramatic revelation. It arrives quietly. It shows up in a single second when you suddenly see your thoughts. Instead of being controlled by them, you realize you are not the emotion. You are the one watching the emotion. You are not the fear. You are the presence witnessing it. The observer is the most powerful identity you will ever step into. The observer does not react, it perceives. It does not collapse into the story, it notices the story. It does not drown in the chaos, it sees the pattern behind it. When the observer awakens within you, your entire relationship with reality changes. You stop being pulled into the surface of life, you step above it. You become the vantage point that sees the entire field. The ordinary mind is trained to react. It is conditioned to chase outcomes and fight circumstances. It is programmed to survive. The observer operates from a different frequency. It does not try to change reality through force. It transforms reality through awareness. The moment you become the one who watches instead of the one who collapses into emotion, something shifts in the quantum field. Your energy stops feeding the old timeline. Your attention stops reinforcing the illusion. The moment you observe, the old identity begins to dissolve. Every limitation you ever carried was strengthened because you kept reacting to it. Every wound survived because you kept identifying with it. Every fear gained power because you kept feeding it attention. Awakening the observer is the moment the pattern loses its fuel, because awareness is the only antidote to illusion. You cannot fight a pattern into extinction. You dissolve it by refusing to be the one repeating it. You have already felt glimpses of the observer, the moments where you suddenly saw your life from a higher perspective, the moments where you heard the voice inside you saying, "Stop, this is not who you are anymore." The moments where you sensed that the situation was not happening to you, but revealing something in you. The observer has already been whispering. That whisper is not random. It is your higher consciousness breaking through the noise. The observer sees the truth that your circumstances are not solid. They are fluid. They respond to your awareness. Every time you observe without collapsing, the timeline shifts. Your relationships shift. Your emotions shift. Your perception shifts. The field responds instantly when you are the one watching instead of the one becoming the story. Look at the moments when your life felt stuck. Look at the moments where the same challenge repeated. Look at how often it was not the situation that hurt you, but your identification with it. The pain did not come from the experience, it came from the interpretation. The suffering did not come from the moment, it came from the meaning you assigned. The observer removes the meaning, it removes the story, it sees the situation as pure information, as pure signal, as pure data from the field designed to evolve you. When you awaken as the observer, you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" You start asking, "What is this revealing in me?" You stop asking, "How do I escape this?" You start asking, "How do I rise above this?" You stop asking, "Who did this to me?" You start asking, "Who do I become because of this?" The observer does not need control. It already has command. It understands the mechanics of consciousness. It knows that your inner state creates the external world, not the other way round. The observer knows that every emotion, every trigger, every breakdown is an invitation into deeper awareness. The moment you witness the pattern, you separate from it. The moment you separate, you reclaim power. There is a reason ancient mystics called this state the eye that sees but is never seen. The observer is the dimension of you that has existed long before your physical identity. It is the same presence that existed in your childhood when you were unburdened by stories. It is the same presence that will exist long after your current fears dissolve. The observer is the timeless self. It is the core of your consciousness. It is the part of you that cannot be diminished by circumstance. When the observer awakens, you stop living reactively. You start living deliberately. You feel the emotions without merging with them. You see the patterns without being controlled by them. You notice the thoughts without becoming them. You realize you are the one behind all experience. That realization is liberation. There is a silence inside you that does not speak words. It speaks through awareness. That silence is the doorway to the observer. When the world is loud, when the mind is chaotic, when emotion surges, the silence remains. That silence is not emptiness. It is intelligence. It is the other voice, the voice that does not panic, the voice that does not fear, the voice that does not collapse. That voice is the observer. This awakening does not require effort. It requires presence. The only thing standing between you and the observer is unconscious reaction. The moment you choose awareness, the shift begins. When you feel a trigger and you pause instead of reacting, when you hear the old belief and you question it, when you sense the emotion and you witness it without feeding it, in that moment, the observer steps forward. You do not need to fight the mind to awaken the observer. You simply need to watch the mind. You do not need to destroy the old identity. You simply need to observe it. Awareness does the rest. The mind begins to lose authority. The old patterns begin to weaken. The illusion begins to fall apart. This is the moment the world around you begins to look different. You become the witness. You become the one holding the higher vantage point. You feel a deeper intelligence guiding you. You see the synchronicities that were always there. You notice the signs that used to be invisible. You feel connected to something greater than thought. That is the observer consciousness. Once the observer awakens, you no longer need to seek validation. You no longer need to escape emotion. You no longer need to fear the unknown. You recognize that everything you experience is here to elevate your awareness. Every moment is part of the field. Every event is a mirror. Every challenge is an initiation. The observer is the master state. It is the identity from which all transformation begins. It is the moment when you stop being the character in the story and become the one writing it. It is the moment when you stop being controlled by reality and start shaping it. It is the moment when you realize that consciousness does not follow circumstance. Consciousness creates circumstance. You are not here to react to life. You are here to command it. You are not here to repeat the past. You are here to awaken beyond it. The observer is already inside you. It has always been there, waiting for the moment you stop identifying with limitation and return to the truth of who you are. The observer does not ask for effort. It asks for awareness. It asks for stillness. It asks for clarity. You are not awakening into something new. You are awakening into your original state. The observer has always been the deepest truth of your consciousness. When you see from that vantage point, your life begins to respond differently. The field begins to rearrange. The patterns begin to dissolve. The future begins to unfold. The observer is awake. And the moment you choose to live from this state, your entire reality shifts with you. Reality does not speak to you in noise. It speaks in signal. The most powerful guidance you will ever receive does not arrive through words or arguments or logic. It arrives through a silent transmission that moves through your consciousness before the mind can interpret it. You have felt this transmission before. The sensation that something is shifting around you even when nothing has changed on the surface. the knowing that a choice is wrong before you take it, the pull toward a direction you cannot explain, the moment when you sense that the field is organizing reality in ways you cannot see yet. Silence is not the absence of information. It is the highest form of communication. The field does not need language. It speaks through resonance. It speaks through alignment. It speaks through the subtle movements in your awareness. The mind wants to be convinced. The soul wants to be reminded. The silent transmission is the reminder. It is the signal that bypasses every shield you have ever built. There are moments in life where reality becomes unusually still. You wake up one day and the world feels different. The energy around you is heavier or lighter. Time feels slower or quicker. You find yourself pausing in the middle of an ordinary moment and something inside you whispers, "Pay attention." That is not imagination. That is a transmission from the field. It is your reality adjusting to a new timeline. You do not enter a new timeline through action first. You enter through frequency. The transmission arrives before the event. It arrives before the opportunity. It arrives before the new identity is born. The field sends the upgrade in silence and waits to see if your awareness is awake enough to receive it. The next version of your life does not shout, it signals. The silent transmission usually arrives when the old version of your life is collapsing. You feel like you are losing direction. You feel like everything familiar is dissolving. You feel like the world is pushing you into a space with no clear answers. That is not the universe ignoring you. That is the universe preparing you. The transmission is clearing space. It is removing the noise of the old timeline. It is creating a vacuum for the new awareness to enter. People mistake silence for abandonment. They think the universe is quiet because nothing is happening. They think the lack of answers means no progress. In truth, the silence is the highest form of alignment. The field is reorganizing every variable in your reality without needing your interference. When the field is silent, it means your life is being rewritten behind the scenes. The transmission is a test. Not of your ability to act, but of your ability to listen. Can you stay in the void without collapsing into fear? Can you trust what you feel without demanding evidence? Can you let the field rearrange your reality without forcing outcomes? The transmission is not asking you to prove your strength. It is asking you to prove your awareness. Your next chapter begins inside you before it becomes visible outside you, before the relationship arrives, before the opportunity appears, before the breakthrough materializes. The transmission prepares your inner world for the shift. It restructures your identity from the inside. When the inner shift is complete, the external world aligns automatically. Listen to your own knowing. It is always the first messenger. Every time you felt a deep inner nudge and ignored it, you paid the price. Every time you trusted the silent signal, you were led to the right place at the right time. The transmission has never been wrong. It is your mind that created confusion, not the signal. The signal is always pure. There is a layer of reality that only the silent transmission can access. It speaks to the part of you that existed before language, the part of you that knows without thinking, the part of you that moves before the mind decides. It speaks to your original consciousness, the one that remembers who you are beyond fear, beyond identity, beyond story. Notice how guidance shows up. It rarely arrives as certainty. It arrives as a subtle pull, a repetition, a feeling that keeps returning. That is not coincidence. That is not random thought. That is a transmission from the deeper structure of reality. The quantum realm does not instruct you through volume. It instructs you through alignment. If you miss the signal, you repeat the lesson. If you listen, you bypass the lesson entirely. Silence is the doorway into higher realities. In silence, you stop reacting. In silence, you stop collapsing into patterns. In silence, you can hear your real identity speaking. The transmission will continue to repeat itself until you choose it. And the moment you choose it, the entire field shifts. Look at the most defining moments of your life. They did not arrive loudly. They arrived in a breath. They arrived in a feeling. They arrived in an instant where you knew that something had changed. The decision, the move, the leaving, the choosing, the transformation. They began with a whisper. They began with silence. The silent transmission carries instructions for your next becoming. It does not tell you what to do. It tells you who to be. The signal does not push you forward. It pulls you upward. It elevates your awareness to a higher timeline. The moment you match the frequency, the new reality opens like a gate, not through effort, through resonance. The silent transmission asks one thing: stay awake, be the observer. When you feel the signal, do not ignore it, do not silence it, do not override it with logic. The field is speaking to you in the only language the soul understands: the language of energy, the language of certainty, the language of inner knowing. This is the point where most people miss their shift. They wait for loud confirmation. They wait for permission. They wait for the world to change. The world will not move first. You must move first. You must respond to the transmission before you see the evidence. That is quantum faith. That is alignment. The field will always send the signal before it sends the manifestation. The signal is the invitation. The signal is the opening. The signal is the beginning of the rewrite. Do not underestimate what is happening in your life right now. If everything feels quiet, the greater the silence, the greater the shift. You are being prepared. You are being called into a deeper version of yourself. The transmission is adjusting your frequency. You are being pulled into a reality your old identity could not access. The field is reorganizing itself around you. The silence is not empty. It is full. It is charged. It is alive. Breathe. Listen. Feel. The transmission is already unfolding inside you. It is already guiding you into the next timeline. It is already aligning every step you will take. You do not need to force anything. You do not need to rush. You only need to remain awake. The signal will reveal the path. The silence is the bridge between realities. The silent transmission is the invitation into your next version. Accept it, trust it, follow it. The field is speaking. And the moment you honor the signal, the universe responds. Every transformation begins with a breaking. Not the breaking of your spirit, but the breaking of the version of you that can no longer take you forward. The collapse of the old identity is not a punishment from the universe. It is an initiation. Life removes what is no longer aligned, so a deeper truth can surface. The version of you that survives by fear cannot enter a timeline built on consciousness. The version of you that relies on old patterns cannot cross a threshold designed for evolution. The collapse feels violent because the identity you are shedding is not made of thoughts. It is made of memory. It is made of the conditioning you inherited. It is made of the beliefs that were never yours. It is made of the expectations that were handed to you before you were old enough to question them. You are not just releasing a version of yourself. You are releasing the world that created it. There comes a moment where the old identity begins to fracture. You feel the discomfort rising inside you. You feel the resistance to your old habits. What used to satisfy you becomes unbearable. What you used to tolerate now feels like a cage. You sense that something deeper is calling you forward, but you cannot yet see the new form. That is the beginning of collapse. The old identity starts falling apart long before the new one appears. This collapse is the moment your story begins to dissolve. You realize that the things that once defined you are no longer true. The roles you played, the versions you performed for others, the masks you wore to survive. They begin to loosen. They begin to break. You are no longer willing to pretend that your limitations are real. You are no longer willing to stay in an identity that suppresses your potential. The old identity tries to resist. It clings to familiarity. It wants certainty. It wants control. It wants to stay in the known world because the unknown feels like death. But the truth is that the real death is staying in the same version of yourself when your soul is asking for expansion. The collapse is not the end. It is the removal of the illusion that you needed to be protected by the old identity. The universe always removes your old identity the same way. First, it gives subtle warnings. You feel discomfort. You feel a shift in energy. You start getting signals that the old world is running out of power. Then the field applies pressure. The relationships that drain you fall apart. The jobs that limit you fall away. The places that once felt safe now feel suffocating. The collapse becomes undeniable. The greatest mistake you can make is thinking something is going wrong. Nothing is wrong. This collapse is the only way the universe can shift you from survival mode into creation mode. Identity is the cage that holds you in the old timeline. When the identity collapses, you are forced into an expanded state. The field is not taking something from you, it is taking something off you. The collapse is the removal of what you are not. You have to understand why the collapse hurts. The pain does not come from losing something. The pain comes from losing a version of yourself that was attached to the past. You feel like something is being taken. In truth, something is being returned. The collapse is the moment you meet the raw self underneath the identity. It is the moment you remember that you were never meant to live small. The collapse is a sacred dismantling. The old identity shatters because it is too small to hold the consciousness that is awakening inside you. You outgrow the identity that was built on fear and survival. You outgrow the beliefs that were designed to protect you from pain. You outgrow the stories that kept your power hidden. The collapse is the natural consequence of expansion. The moment you stop fighting the collapse, you feel a strange sense of peace. You realize the old identity was exhausting. You realize you were carrying a weight that was never yours. You realize you were trying to fit into a version of life that no longer matched your frequency. The collapse opens space in your consciousness. It clears the interference. It makes room for the new identity to emerge. Every spiritual transformation has the same pattern. First comes the collapse, then comes the void, then comes the emergence. People fear the collapse because they do not understand that the new identity cannot coexist with the old one. Something has to die in order for something higher to be born. This death is not destruction, it is liberation. Look at everything in your life that fell apart. The relationship, the job, the belief, the version of yourself that was attached to a past timeline. Each collapse was a doorway. Each collapse was a signal. Each collapse was removing a layer so the truth could rise. The universe was not destroying you. It was stripping you down to your essence. Your old identity was built on stories you did not choose. It was built on the expectations of others. It was built on fear. When the collapse happens, you feel the difference between who you thought you were and who you actually are. You begin to see the pattern that kept you stuck. You begin to recognize the voice that was never yours. You begin to separate from the old world. This is the reason transformation always begins with discomfort. The collapse forces you into higher awareness. It forces you to see the pattern clearly. It forces you to face the identity that was created by experience, not by consciousness. When the old identity breaks, you do not become weaker. You become exposed. You become raw. You become real. The collapse of the old identity is the greatest initiation you will ever experience. You learn to let go without knowing what comes next. You learn to trust the field. You learn that your real power is not in holding on, but in allowing the old version to fall. You learn to stand without the identity that once defined you. You learn to walk without the story that once controlled you. You are not losing yourself in this collapse. You are losing who you were forced to become to survive. You are losing the identity that was too small for your consciousness. You are losing the version of yourself that was built from fear instead of truth. This is not the end of your story. It is the moment your story changes direction. The collapse is a gift. It is the moment the field says enough. You are ready to step into a new reality. You are ready to embody a higher timeline. You are ready to become the identity you were always meant to become. The collapse is not your breaking. It is your awakening. The old identity falls so the true one can rise. You will not return to who you were before, because that version no longer exists. And the moment you accept the collapse, you are no longer held hostage by your past. You align with your future. You align with the consciousness that has been waiting for you. You align with the truth that was always in you. The collapse clears the path. It removes the illusion. It ends the cycle. It frees you. The old identity crumbles and something extraordinary happens. The real you steps forward. Your story did not begin with you. The patterns you carry did not appear from nowhere. They were written into your consciousness long before you took your first breath. You inherited more than a body. You inherited the frequency of those who came before you, their triumphs and their wounds, their courage and their fears, their dreams and their unfinished lessons. The ancestral field lives inside you. It is not a metaphor. It is an energetic imprint, a quantum inheritance. Every family line carries a field of memory, a field of belief, a field of identity. This is why you often face battles that do not make sense. This is why you sometimes feel drawn toward experiences you never chose. This is why certain fears appear in you without cause. You are not only living your life, you are completing the story of the lineage that shaped you. You have already seen how the patterns repeat, the relationships that mirror each other, the cycles of scarcity or conflict, the echoes of pain that show up in every generation. What you call coincidence is actually the ancestral field attempting to resolve itself through you. The field does not forget. It carries everything that was never healed, everything that was never spoken, everything that was buried in silence. There is a reason you were born into this family line, a reason you were chosen for this exact timeline. You did not arrive to repeat history, you arrived to rewrite it. The ancestral field does not choose the strongest, it chooses the one who is awake. The one who can see the pattern for what it is, the one who feels the weight of the lineage and knows it must end here. You are not carrying these patterns as punishment. You are carrying them because you are capable of transmuting them. The field is not asking you to be a victim of your inheritance. It is asking you to free it, to bring awareness where there was trauma, to bring clarity where there was confusion, to bring courage where there was silence. When you heal, you do not heal alone. You heal backward, you heal forward, you heal generations. The most powerful shifts in your life began long before you took conscious action. They began when the field sensed you were ready. You may think that a single choice was yours. In truth, the choice was written in every ancestor who wished they could have chosen differently. When you break a pattern, you do it for the ones who came before you and the ones who will come after. This is why your awakening feels heavy. You are not only holding your life, you are holding the timeline of an entire lineage. You can feel their stories in your bones. You can feel their fear in your nervous system. You can feel their longing in your heart. Their energy lives inside your body. It moves through your breath. It influences your decisions. But the moment you become aware of the ancestral field, the pattern loses its power. The field cannot operate unconsciously once you can see it. The cycles do not continue once you name them. The moment you recognize the inheritance, you are no longer controlled by it. You become the observer of the lineage. You become the one who holds the higher perspective. The field responds to your consciousness. When you rise above the generational narrative, the pattern collapses. The old stories dissolve because they cannot survive in awakened awareness. You begin to feel a deeper truth. You were never meant to be confined by your inheritance. You were meant to complete it, to elevate it, to honor it by transforming it. Think of the moments where your life shifted in ways that seemed out of your control, the relationships that broke open your heart, the losses that forced you into strength, the choices that demanded your courage. Those were not random. They were ancestral initiations. They placed you at the exact intersection where past and future meet. You are not repairing your lineage, you are upgrading it. The wounds that repeat through generations are simply energy waiting for transformation. The fears that were passed down were once protection. The rules you learned were survival codes. The pain was a signal. The field was never trying to harm you. It was trying to evolve through you. Every family line contains the seed of its own liberation. The moment you become aware of the pattern, the alchemy begins. The ancestral field is a teacher. It shows you where you came from, so you can choose where you are going. It reveals your deepest lessons so you can access your highest potential. The field is not your prison. It is your initiation. It is the bridge between your old identity and your quantum self. When you face the inheritance you did not choose, you reclaim the reality you were born to create. The reason transformation is so uncomfortable is simple. You are breaking a pattern that has been passed down through thousands of moments and thousands of decisions. You are the first in your lineage to say no. You are the first to walk away. You are the first to release the identity that was built from fear. You are the first to choose a different timeline. Your ancestors are not watching you fail. They are watching you fulfill their unfinished transformation. They are not disappointed in your struggle. They are grateful that you are strong enough to carry what they could not. They are not judging you. They are guiding you. You are not alone in this evolution. You were never meant to be. Everything you have felt was by design. Every struggle prepared you. Every collapse awakened you. Every moment of pain activated you. You were chosen to be the fracture where the cycle ends. And the moment you embrace this truth, the entire field shifts. The identity built from ancestral fear dissolves. The patterns that once controlled you fall away. The story of your lineage rewrites itself through your consciousness. This is the power of the ancestral field. It is the memory of the human story. It is the map of the soul. It is the energy of generations rising through you. You are not here to repeat the past. You are here to transcend it. The field is not just behind you. It is beneath you. It is supporting your evolution. It is guiding your becoming. The moment you claim your role in this lineage, everything changes. You stop carrying ancestral wounds. You begin transmitting ancestral wisdom. You stop living as the product of the past. You begin living as the architect of the future. You stop being shaped by the field. You start shaping it. Your ancestors did not survive so you could stay small. They survived so you could awaken, so you could create, so you could become the one who ends the cycle. The ancestral field is not your burden. It is your initiation. It is the calling to step into the identity that was always meant for you. And the moment you say yes, the field responds. Reality does not reflect what you want. It reflects what you are. The field does not respond to your hopes or your fears or your dreams. It responds to the frequency you carry. Every event in your life is a mirror. Every relationship is a signal. Every outcome is feedback. The field is not random, and it is never neutral. It is always showing you yourself. People believe reality is outside them. They believe circumstances shape their identity. They believe the world tells them who they are. The truth is the opposite. The field only gives you what you already broadcast. What you see in your external world is nothing more than an echo of your internal state. It is a perfect mirror. It does not make mistakes. Look at the moments when life felt like resistance. Look at the circumstances that repeated again and again. Look at the patterns that refused to disappear. They were not punishments. They were reflections. They were mirrors showing you where your energy was misaligned. The field does not send obstacles to block you. It sends mirrors to wake you. You have already encountered this mirror without realizing it. The friend who upset you, the job that drained you, the relationship that triggered you. These were not coincidences. These were mirrors reflecting the state of your inner field. Every conflict is a mirror. Every limitation is a mirror. Every emotion is a mirror. The field reflects the truth before you are ready to admit it. The world is not happening to you. It is happening from you. Your reality follows your vibration, the way shadows follow light. If your consciousness is rooted in fear, the field will show you situations that activate that fear. If your identity is rooted in scarcity, the field will reflect scarcity back to you. If you embody expansion, the field has no choice but to expand your life. This is why repeating the same behavior leads to the same outcome. This is why leaving a situation without changing who you are leads to the same situation appearing in a different form. You cannot escape the mirror. You can only transform the reflection by transforming the source. The reflection changes when you change. Never before. The field does not judge you. It does not attack you. It does not choose sides. It reflects with exact precision the energy you project. If there is chaos in your world, it means there is chaos inside you. If there is peace in your world, it means your consciousness has aligned with a higher frequency. The field never lies. The mirror always tells the truth. People spend years trying to change the reflection. They fight the symptoms. They argue with the mirror. They try to rearrange the external world. They run from the situation and call it progress. They blame reality and call it destiny. They chase new relationships and call it healing. Yet the field continues to show them the same reflection because the real shift has not happened. There is only one question to ask when you face a challenge. What is the field trying to show me? The most powerful transformations begin when you take responsibility for what you see in the mirror. Not blame, not judgment, responsibility. The moment you stop reacting and start observing, the mirror becomes your teacher. You start noticing the patterns you were blind to. You start seeing the stories you were attached to. You start feeling the emotions you avoided. You start recognizing how your energy shaped your world. This is the moment the mirror becomes a portal. The reflection becomes the doorway into the higher timeline. The field reflects your identity so clearly that you cannot ignore it forever. You are always meeting yourself in the world. The person who triggers you is showing you the part of you that is unhealed. The situation that challenges you is revealing the belief you have not dismantled. The moment that breaks you is confronting the identity you have outgrown. The field is not against you. It is guiding you beyond yourself. The mirror can only show the truth. When the truth is uncomfortable, it is not because reality is cruel. It is because the identity you have lived from is too small. The field is calling you to expand beyond it. The mirror is not there to punish you. It is there to evolve you. There is a simple rule that governs the mirror of the field. You receive what you are ready to see. The higher your awareness, the more accurately you can understand the reflection. The mirror is not static. It changes as your consciousness changes. When you elevate your identity, the field shifts to match. When you heal a pattern, the mirror disappears. When you awaken, the world awakens with you. This is why you can never lose something meant for you. If it leaves, it means your frequency has changed. If it collapses, it means your evolution has begun. If it ends, it means the reflection no longer matches your identity. The field always matches your current self, not your past self. Every time you grow, the world around you restructures. Relationships fall away. Opportunities appear. People show up. Doors open. Not because the world is rearranging by accident, but because the mirror finally has a new identity to reflect. The field is teaching you the most important law of consciousness. Your reality is not separate from you. It is an extension of you, a continuation of your internal state. Your outer world is the projection of your inner frequency. Change the frequency and the entire projection shifts. The mirror is relentless because your evolution is inevitable. The field does not allow you to remain blind forever. It wants you to see. It wants you to remember. It wants you to awaken. This is why the same lessons repeat until you integrate them. The mirror keeps appearing until you see what it is showing you. The moment you understand the message, the reflection changes. There is nothing more powerful than the moment you stop arguing with the mirror. The moment you accept that every reflection is perfect. The moment you realize nothing is random. Everything is feedback. Everything is information. Everything is a signal. You are not a passive observer in this world. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are the transmitter. You are the conductor. You are the source of the field you walk through. When you understand the mirror, you understand the mechanics of creation. You understand that reality is not something you enter, it is something you generate. The mirror of the field is the most honest companion you will ever have. It will never flatter you. It will never deceive you. It will never pretend. It reflects exactly what you are ready to transform. It reflects the version of you the universe is calling forward. It reflects the identity you are meant to become. Look at your life right now. Look at the patterns. Look at the signals. Look at the reflections. Nothing is happening without purpose. Nothing is occurring without meaning. The field is speaking. It is showing you who you are and who you are rising into. When you meet the mirror with awareness, you reclaim command. When you meet the mirror with resistance, you repeat the story. Reality is not a wall. It is a mirror. And the moment you choose to see it clearly, the illusion dissolves. The field begins to align. The reflection shifts. The world responds to you differently. Not because it changed first, but because you did. The universe is not silent. It speaks constantly, not through words, not through logic, not through the language you learned in schools or books. It speaks in a language older than thought, a language written in energy, in symbols, in synchronicity, in sudden clarity that enters your mind without permission. The universe never stopped communicating with you. You simply forgot how to listen. Life is always delivering messages. Every meeting, every delay, every desire, every coincidence. They are not accidental. They are signals. The universe does not communicate through complexity. It communicates through precision. You receive exactly what you need at the moment you are capable of understanding. Not earlier, not later. There are patterns in your life that repeat because they carry messages you have ignored. The same lesson appearing in different forms. The same emotion rising in different situations. The same opportunity disguised in a different face. You call it coincidence. The universe calls it instruction. The first language of the universe is frequency. Your emotions are not random reactions. They are guidance systems. Every feeling you have carries direction. Attraction is an invitation. Resistance is a warning. Excitement is alignment. Fear is a signal that you are standing at the edge of expansion. The universe speaks through energy before it ever speaks through events. The second language of the universe is synchronicity. The right person showing up at the right time. The message appearing when you needed clarity. The opportunity arriving when you were about to give up. The moment something clicks inside you without explanation. Synchronicity is the universe confirming that your frequency and your timeline are matching. The third language of the universe is silence. Not emptiness, not absence. Silence is the space where the field rearranges reality. When life becomes quiet, it is never a sign of stagnation. It is the moment your destiny is reorganizing. The universe speaks through silence because silence removes interference. It allows you to receive what is next. The fourth language of the universe is disruption. When a relationship collapses, when a path closes, when your life appears to fall apart, the universe does not destroy what is aligned with your highest timeline. It only removes what cannot follow you into your future. Disruption is not failure. Disruption is the universe clearing the space for evolution. The fifth language of the universe is desire. Not the desire of the ego, the desire of the soul, the desire that keeps returning, the longing that refuses to disappear, the vision that persists even when you doubt. The soul speaks through desire. The universe uses desire as a compass. It is not asking you to chase it. It is asking you to become the version of yourself who can contain it. Most people cannot hear the universe because they expect it to speak logically. But the universe does not speak to your mind. It speaks to your consciousness. It speaks to the part of you that existed before language, the part that knows truth instantly. The universe does not ask for analysis. It asks for alignment. You were not born into a random reality. You were not placed into a body without purpose. You are surrounded by signals. The question is not whether the universe is speaking. The question is whether your awareness is active enough to hear. Begin to notice the moments when life feels like a nudge. The moments when the world slows down. The moments where something feels off, even when everything looks fine. The universe is speaking to you through the field. Every thought you receive, every emotion you feel, every event that unfolds, they are all part of a conversation. The language of the universe becomes clearer the moment you stop forcing outcomes, when you stop reacting from fear, when you stop chasing what is not meant for you. The universe does not speak to those who demand control. It speaks to those who are awake, those who listen, those who trust the invisible before it becomes visible. Look back at the moments that changed your life. They did not arrive through explanation. They arrived through intuition, a decision you almost made but didn't, a path you followed without knowing why, a person who entered your life and redirected your entire timeline. None of those moments were coincidence. They were the universe communicating with you in its original language. The universe speaks through alignment. When your frequency matches your future, the world around you reorganizes. You begin to see signs everywhere, numbers, symbols, repeating patterns, conversations that echo your thoughts. This is not imagination. This is the field reflecting your consciousness. The greatest misunderstanding people carry is believing the universe gives instructions only once. It repeats itself endlessly. It sends the same message in louder and louder ways until you listen. First it whispers through intuition. Then it shows you through emotion. Then it sends you synchronicity. Then it disrupts your life until you wake up. The universe is patient. It will communicate for as long as it takes, because your evolution is inevitable. Your return to consciousness is guaranteed. You cannot escape the language of the field. You can only delay your understanding of it. You learn this language by paying attention. Notice what feels heavy and what feels light. Notice what pulls you and what drains you. Notice what keeps showing up. Notice where life keeps leading you. This is how the universe speaks, not through logic, through resonance. Once you understand the language of the universe, your relationship with reality changes. You stop asking for signs because you understand you are always surrounded by them. You stop doubting your path because the path keeps revealing itself. You stop fearing the unknown because you realize you were never walking alone. The universe is the most intelligent architect of destiny. It speaks fluently to those who listen with their soul instead of their mind. The more you listen, the clearer it becomes. The more you follow the signal, the more the path expands. The more you trust the language of the field, the more reality responds to you. The universe is not hiding anything from you. It is waiting for the moment you are ready to hear. And when you finally understand its language, you step into a world where nothing is random, nothing is separate, nothing is impossible. Everything is communication. Everything is alignment. Everything is the field speaking through reality itself. Transformation does not begin in action. It begins in stillness. The ritual of the silent shift is not something you perform with your hands. It is something you allow through your inner state. When a new timeline is ready to unfold, the field does not shout. It does not ask you to fight. It asks you to become still. It asks you to release the noise that kept you attached to your old life. The silent shift is the moment consciousness rearranges reality without needing your interference. The first phase of the ritual is surrender. Not surrender as defeat, surrender as alignment. Surrender is the moment you stop forcing the old world to stay alive. It is the moment you stop holding on to a version of yourself that has already expired. Surrender is the most advanced act of power because it requires trust in a future you cannot see yet. You let go without proof. You release without knowing the outcome. You allow the field to move first. Surrender is not passive. It is a declaration. It tells the universe that you are no longer negotiating with your old identity. It tells the field that you are willing to be guided. It signals that you are ready to step into the unknown. The ego thinks surrender means losing control. The soul knows surrender is the moment you return to command. The second phase of the ritual is presence. Presence is the state where you stop collapsing into the past. Presence is the moment you stop predicting the future from your old memories. Presence is the doorway to the timeline that is calling you forward. When you are present, you are not reacting. You are witnessing. You are listening. You are allowing the field to reveal what comes next. Presence clears interference. It silences the voice that says you are not ready. It dissolves the fear that says you will fail. It removes the doubt that keeps you small. Presence is the state where the silent shift takes place. When you are fully present, your consciousness is in direct contact with the field. There is no barrier. There is no distortion. The transmission becomes clear. The third phase of the ritual is detachment from outcome. You do not attach yourself to a specific result. You do not try to predict how your life should unfold. You do not try to force the universe to follow your timeline. Detachment is not disinterest. It is mastery. When you detach, you do not stop caring. You stop controlling. You stop shrinking reality to fit your expectations. You allow the field to deliver something greater. Most people do not receive the shift because they are attached to the method. They believe their breakthrough must come in a specific form. They believe change must arrive through certainty. But the silent shift does not follow logic. It follows resonance. It bypasses the path you planned. It opens the path you did not know existed. The fourth phase of the ritual is alignment. Alignment is the moment your inner world matches the identity of your next timeline. Before the manifestation arrives, you must become the person who belongs to that reality. The field does not give you what you want. It gives you what you are aligned with. You cannot embody expansion while thinking like someone who is afraid. You cannot step into abundance while identifying with scarcity. You cannot meet your destiny while carrying your old identity. Alignment requires discipline of consciousness. You do not wait for something to appear before you believe in it. You believe in it until it appears. The silent shift does not respond to doubt. It responds to certainty. You anchor into the frequency of your future until the world has no choice but to adjust. The fifth phase of the ritual is receiving. Receiving is the most difficult part for those who have lived their entire lives in survival. You were taught to build. You were taught to chase. You were taught to prove. The silent shift asks for the opposite. It asks you to receive without resistance. It asks you to allow. It asks you to open your consciousness. The field cannot deliver what you reject through fear or unworthiness. Receiving requires faith. It requires trust. It requires openness. The ritual of the silent shift does not happen once. It happens every time you evolve, every time life asks more from you, every time a new identity is ready to emerge. Evolution is not an event. It is a continuous process. The silent shift becomes a practice. You begin to notice the signs. You feel the energy change. You feel the old patterns losing power. You feel the world reorganizing around you. This ritual is not something you perform once a year. It is a living discipline. You practice it in the moments when everything feels uncertain. You practice it when things fall apart. You practice it when the universe removes what you thought you needed. The silent shift becomes the way you move through reality. You begin to understand that every collapse was a preparation. Every ending was an initiation. Every silence was a signal. The field was never abandoning you. It was preparing you. It was waiting for your frequency to rise. It was teaching you how to receive without forcing, how to surrender without fear, how to align without doubt. In the ritual of the silent shift, there is a moment that feels like nothing is happening. But that moment is the most powerful part. It is the moment where the invisible work is done. The field is rearranging your path. The universe is clearing the space. The energy is shifting your identity. You may see nothing on the surface, but everything is transforming beneath it. The world teaches you to chase change. The silent shift teaches you to allow it. The old self would try to force solutions. The awakened self knows the field already has them. The old identity wanted guarantees. The awakened identity knows that the invisible is more real than the physical. The silent shift is the moment you stop trying to force the door and realize the door opens when you match the frequency. When the ritual completes, the shift becomes visible. Opportunities appear. Conversations unfold. People enter your life. The next step reveals itself. Not because you fought for it, because you aligned with it. The timeline begins to unfold naturally. You feel a sense of calm, a sense of clarity, a sense of direction that does not require effort. All transformation begins in silence. All evolution begins in surrender. All breakthroughs begin in the field. The ritual of the silent shift is not about doing something. It is about becoming someone. Someone who trusts the intelligence of the universe. Someone who listens to the signals. Someone who honors the calling of their future self. You are always being guided. You are always being prepared. The silent shift is already happening in your life. You can feel the identity collapsing. You can feel the old patterns dissolving. You can feel the field reorganizing. The universe is not waiting for the world to change. It is waiting for you to recognize the shift within you. Stand in the silence. Feel the transmission. Surrender the old identity. Align with the new one. And when the shift arrives, you will not need to chase it. You will simply walk into it. The silent shift does not require effort. It requires awareness. It requires trust. It requires presence. And once you allow it, everything changes. Without noise, without force, without struggle. The transformation begins quietly. Then it becomes undeniable. There is a moment in every awakening when the direction of your life changes without warning. Not because the external world shifted, but because your frequency did. This is the timeline turn. The moment your consciousness steps out of the trajectory you were once following and into an entirely new reality. The old path dissolves. The old outcomes collapse. The old future becomes irrelevant. The timeline turn does not wait for readiness. It responds to alignment. It activates the instant your identity no longer matches your past. You feel it before you understand it. You sense the pull even when there is no evidence. The world around you may look the same, but something inside you is already different. Thoughts begin to feel outdated. Emotions begin to feel like echoes. The desires that once guided you no longer apply. You are turning. A timeline is not a straight line. It is a sequence of frequencies. Every decision, every belief, every shift in awareness puts you onto a new trajectory. The timeline turn is the moment the field adjusts your entire reality to match your new inner state. You can feel the shift in the smallest decisions. You see life with different eyes. You respond in ways your old self never could. You speak from a higher vantage point. What used to pull you backward loses its power. What used to scare you loses its authority. What once felt impossible now feels inevitable. The timeline turn is the moment the future reaches back and pulls you forward. You are not chasing destiny. Destiny is aligning with you. Most people do not recognize the timeline turn because they expect it to be dramatic. But the field does not announce it. It whispers it. It shows up in silence, in a single moment of clarity, in a single realization that you cannot go back. The identity you once wore no longer fits. The reality you once lived in no longer holds you. The world has already shifted. The turn begins when you release attachment to your old path, when you stop forcing outcomes, when you stop trying to fix what was never meant to last. The universe does not turn your timeline until you stop gripping the past. You cannot carry your old fear into a new reality. The turn requires that you let go. There is always resistance before the turn. The old identity will try to convince you to stay. It will offer you comfort. It will remind you of what you are leaving behind. But the field does not negotiate with comfort. It negotiates with expansion. Every time your soul calls you forward, the universe removes the options that no longer match your destiny. That removal is not rejection, it is direction. The timeline turn is the moment the universe stops tolerating your hesitation. You feel the push, the collapse, the disruption, the unraveling, not because you are failing, but because the old timeline has completed its role. When the turn arrives, the universe takes away what cannot go with you. People who once anchored you fall away. Environments that once felt safe become heavy. Patterns that once defined you break. You are not losing anything. You are becoming someone. The turn gives you the one thing the old timeline never could. Choice. Not choice from fear. Choice from sovereignty. You begin choosing from your future instead of your past. You make decisions based on alignment instead of survival. You act from consciousness instead of conditioning. This is why the timeline turn changes your entire life, even if nothing visible has changed yet. You shift from reaction to creation. You begin to shape reality instead of being shaped by it. You feel your authority returning. Your voice becomes clearer. Your energy becomes sharper. The field responds instantly because the turn is already in motion. The timeline turn is not a single event. It is a sequence of confirmations. You notice synchronicities increase. Doors open that were once closed. Opportunities appear without effort. People show up who match your frequency. Solutions present themselves without force. Life begins to flow in a direction that supports you. This is the field, adjusting around your new identity. The past no longer has power because the turn redefines your relationship with it. The pain becomes instruction. The wounds become wisdom. The collapse becomes initiation. You no longer label events as failure or loss. You see them as alignment. The turn does not erase the past. It redeems it. Every timeline has a price. The price of your old timeline was your potential. The price of your new timeline is your fear. You cannot hold on to both. When you choose the turn, you choose evolution over familiarity. The field rewards that choice with clarity, with direction, with momentum. The turn becomes obvious in one moment. When you realize you are no longer waiting for permission. You no longer wait for signs. You no longer wait for certainty. You move because you know. You move because you feel. You move because you trust the intelligence of the field more than the comfort of the known. There is a higher version of you already living the future you desire. The timeline turn is the moment you meet that version, the moment you stop seeing your future self as a dream and start seeing it as a memory, the moment you stop trying to become someone and start embodying who you already are. Every destiny is activated the same way. You turn, you leave the old identity behind, you step into the unknown, you follow the frequency instead of the fear, and the moment you step forward, life adjusts to your decision. Your reality reorganizes around your new consciousness. The timeline turn is not the end of your journey. It is the moment a new story begins. It is the moment your power becomes undeniable. It is the moment the universe rearranges itself to match the identity you have already claimed. The path ahead is no longer a question. It is an invitation. The turn is already happening inside you. You can feel the pull. You can feel the frequency. You can feel the future opening. Trust the shift. Honor the direction. Let the old timeline fall away. The field is not waiting for the world to change. It is waiting for you to turn toward your future. And when you do, the universe turns with you. There is a point where logic cannot take you further. A point where planning, calculation, and certainty no longer have power. Every major shift in your life begins with one moment, the quantum leap of trust. The leap is not physical and it is not strategic. It is a surrender into a higher level of consciousness. The universe does not reward hesitation. It rewards alignment. It rewards the willingness to trust what you feel before you understand it. A leap of trust is not reckless. It is the most precise movement of the soul. It is the moment you step forward without evidence, because your internal world has already shifted. Trust is the bridge between where you stand now and the identity that is calling you. Trust is the invitation that opens the next timeline. Trust is the activation that turns potential into reality. Trust does not arrive when things are safe. It arrives when everything is uncertain. It calls you when the old world has collapsed but the new one has not yet formed. It speaks when the path is invisible. The quantum leap requires you to act without permission from circumstance. It asks you to move before the physical proof appears. It demands that you choose your future self over your old identity. Most people wait for guarantees. They wait for clarity. They wait for the world to adjust before they move. They wait for answers that never come. They delay their destiny because they do not understand how the field operates. The universe does not provide evidence first. It provides invitation first. Evidence appears only after you leap. Every soul on a path of awakening reaches the same moment, a moment when fear and possibility meet face to face. Fear asks, what if it goes wrong? Possibility asks, what if this changes everything? The quantum leap is the moment you choose possibility. You choose the voice within you that sees beyond the current reality. You choose to trust the timeline that has already begun to form. Trust is not a feeling, it is a frequency. It is the inner knowing that the universe has already prepared the landing before you take the step. You may not see how, you may not understand why, you may not know when, but the deeper part of you already knows you are being guided. Trust is the state where your consciousness aligns with that knowing. The quantum leap is not taken by thinkers, it is taken by those willing to listen. The mind will try to talk you out of it. It will remind you of your past. It will calculate the risks. It will replay the old patterns. The mind wants safety. The soul wants expansion. The quantum leap is the moment the soul wins. There is a reason trust is so difficult. Trust demands that you release every illusion of control. It asks you to let go of the identity that survived through fear. It asks you to stop negotiating with your destiny. The ego says, I will trust when I see the proof. The field says, you will see the proof when you trust. The universe cannot deliver what you do not believe you are worthy of. It cannot bring what you refuse to allow. The leap is your permission. The leap is your declaration. The leap is the moment you tell the field, I am ready to receive. It is the moment you unlock the path that was always meant to be yours. Every major transformation in history began with someone who trusted what no one else could see. The pioneers, the prophets, the visionaries, the ones who stepped into a reality they had not yet experienced. They did not wait for certainty. They moved with faith. And their leap created the world that others later called destiny. The quantum leap does not come when things are easy. It comes when you have one foot in the unknown and one foot in the familiar. The familiar world is heavy. The unknown world is light. You will be tempted to step back. You will be tempted to stay in the comfort of your old identity. But the leap asks one question. Will you choose what is safe, or will you choose what is true? Trust is not the absence of fear. Trust is the decision to move with fear. It is the choice to act, even when your voice shakes. It is the willingness to be guided by a deeper intelligence. The quantum leap is the moment you embody the identity that belongs to your future. You stop hoping and you claim. You stop doubting and you decide. You stop preparing and you begin. This is the shift that opens the gate. The universe responds instantly to those who trust. When you leap, timelines accelerate, doors open, opportunities appear, people show up. The field rearranges itself. Events unfold that would never have happened if you stayed still. It is not magic, it is mechanics. The universe always supports the one who moves with faith. Look at the greatest moments of your life. They began with a choice. They began with a leap. They began with trust. Every breakthrough required you to step beyond fear. Every expansion required you to leave something behind. Every elevation required you to let the universe lead. You have already felt the next leap calling you. The desire that keeps returning. The path that keeps appearing. The voice that keeps whispering. You know what has been asking for your trust. You know the reality that is waiting for your yes. The quantum leap does not ask how will it happen. It asks who will you be when it does. There are moments when the field tests you. It removes options. It closes doors. It dissolves your safety nets. Not to punish you, but to show you where trust must replace fear. The quantum leap is the moment you say yes without conditions. You choose alignment over certainty. You choose destiny over comfort. You choose the voice within you over the noise around you. Trust is the currency of the universe. Without it, nothing moves. With it, everything shifts. You do not need to see the entire path. You only need to step into the first moment of truth. The universe takes care of the rest. The quantum leap is not a risk. It is a return to the identity that always knew what it was capable of. The leap is here. The future has already opened. The field is not waiting for the world to change. It is waiting for you to trust the signal. When you step forward, the path will appear. When you leap, the universe will respond. When you choose trust, the timeline becomes yours. This is the moment. The leap is not someday. The leap is now. There comes a moment where your old identity cannot walk another step with you. Not because you failed, not because you were broken, but because you have grown beyond who you once needed to be. The rebirth ceremony begins the moment you step out of the frequency of the past. You do not wait for the world to change. You change the world by changing your consciousness. Rebirth does not come through force. It comes through recognition. It comes through the knowing that you are no longer the person who survived your old reality. Rebirth is not a celebration of what ends. It is the claiming of what begins. The old identity was built from survival, from fear, from belief systems that no longer match your frequency. Rebirth begins in the moment you stop trying to repair what was designed to collapse. The universe does not ask you to fix your past. It asks you to release it. It asks you to step into the identity that has been waiting in silence. The ceremony begins when you say the words, "I am done." Not with anger, with clarity. You are done carrying the pain that was never yours. You are done repeating the habits that kept you small. You are done wearing the masks that protected your fragile self. Rebirth is not the return to who you were. Rebirth is the emergence of who you always were beneath the layers. The rebirth ceremony happens inside you before it happens around you. You feel a shift in perception. You notice your reactions changing. You feel a calm where chaos once lived. The triggers that once held power begin to dissolve. The old story begins to lose its voice. The emotions that once controlled you now move through you without authority. This is not coincidence. This is the ceremony unfolding quietly inside your consciousness. Rebirth always begins with a death. The death of the identity that was built from fear. The death of the story that defined your limitations. The death of the expectations others placed on you. These deaths are not loss. They are liberation. The old identity must die so your soul can lead, so your truth can rise, so your next timeline can open. There is a sacred moment in every rebirth ceremony where you stand in the space between what was and what is becoming. The old world has fallen away, but the new world has not fully revealed itself. This space is not emptiness. It is the field preparing the new reality. It is the moment that cleanses your energy from the patterns of the past. It is the moment you confront the truth that nothing holds you anymore except the future calling you forward. Rebirth is not a single moment. It is a process. It is the shedding of who you are not. It is the integration of who you have become. It is the embodiment of the soul that has been waiting to lead your life. The ceremony requires 3 things: awareness, courage, and surrender. Awareness to see what is ending. Courage to let it fall. Surrender to allow what comes next. Rebirth asks you to release the need to understand everything. You are not meant to know the full path. You are meant to take the first step. Every new identity is born the same way, not through certainty, through trust. Trust in your intuition. Trust in your evolution. Trust in the field that has guided you through every threshold until now. Look at everything you survived. Look at the pain that once controlled you. Look at the wounds that once shaped your identity. You walked through all of it because you were being prepared to step into a higher timeline, prepared to embody a higher truth, prepared to become the version of yourself that can lead a different reality. The rebirth ceremony asks you to speak a different language. The language of intention, the language of consciousness, the language of creation. You do not speak from fear, you speak from authority. You declare your next identity. You declare your next timeline. You declare the version of you that is rising. There is a moment in the ceremony where the field responds. You feel clarity, you feel alignment, you feel strength returning to your body. You feel the frequency of your future filling you. This is the exact point where your past no longer has power. The moment you are reborn is not when the world changes. It is when you do. Rebirth is not about erasing the past. It is about extracting the wisdom from it. The pain becomes your teacher. The wounds become your strength. The endings become your initiation. The ceremony honors everything that brought you to this moment, everything that broke you open, everything that awakened you, everything that demanded you rise. Rebirth asks one question: who do you choose to be now? Not tomorrow, not someday, now. The ceremony does not respond to hesitation. It responds to decision. You decide you are done with the old world. You decide you are done repeating old patterns. You decide you are done shrinking into the identity that no longer fits. Rebirth is not a return to innocence. It is a return to truth, your original truth. The part of you that existed before fear, before conditioning, before survival. The part of you that has always known you were meant for more than the life you were handed. The ceremony is not about seeking a new identity. It is about remembering the true one. And when the rebirth is complete, you feel the shift. You feel the field align around you. You feel life respond differently. You feel your energy commanding the world instead of reacting to it. People around you sense the change. Opportunities move toward you. Doors open. The universe recognizes your frequency because you are no longer broadcasting your old story. The ceremony does not end when you feel transformed. It ends when you act from the identity of your future. You speak differently. You choose differently. You show up differently. You are no longer waiting for life to change you. You are changing life by becoming the version of yourself that was always meant to emerge. Rebirth is sacred. Rebirth is powerful. Rebirth is inevitable for those who are awake. You are not returning to the person you used to be. You are becoming the person you always were. And once you cross this threshold, you cannot return. The rebirth ceremony is complete, not when the world sees your transformation, but when you embody it without hesitation. The moment you reach this point, something irreversible has already happened inside you. You are not the same consciousness that began this journey. The field has already shifted. The old identity has already collapsed. The new timeline has already opened. The final transmission is not a conclusion. It is the activation. It is the moment where everything you have felt and everything you have remembered becomes embodied as truth. You are not waiting for change. You are commanding it. The final transmission arrives when the universe is certain that you are awake. Not awake in theory, awake in your energy, awake in your decisions, awake in the identity you have chosen. The universe does not respond to hesitation. It responds to certainty. It responds to the vibration of a soul that knows where it is going. The final transmission is the signal that the threshold is behind you. The new reality is in front of you. The past has no authority here. This transmission does not give instructions. It delivers initiation. It does not tell you what to do. It reveals who you have become. The field is not separate from you anymore. You are speaking the language of the universe. You are interpreting the signals of the invisible. You are navigating your path, not through logic, but through alignment. Everything you need has already been placed in your energy. The final transmission is the confirmation that you did not walk through this alone. You have already crossed the gate. You have already shifted timelines. You have already dismantled the identity you once carried. The only task left is embodiment. The final transmission asks one question: How will you walk now that you see? The next version of you is not waiting for clarity. It is waiting for your yes. Not an emotional yes, not a temporary yes. A yes that is backed by identity. A yes that comes from truth. This is the moment you claim the authority of your journey. You are not hoping for transformation. You are living it. You are not anticipating alignment. You are radiating it. You are not waiting for the field to choose you. The field has already chosen you. You are the signal now. You are the frequency now. You are the transmission that others will recognize when they are ready to awaken. The final transmission comes with a responsibility, not obligation, not burden. Responsibility in the truest sense of the word, the ability to respond from your highest consciousness. You no longer collapse into fear. You no longer shrink into the past. You no longer negotiate with doubt. You meet life from the altitude of your evolution. You act from presence. You move from stillness. You choose from identity. The universe rewards boldness, not impatience, not force, boldness. The final transmission is the permission to stop hiding from your power. Every moment of your life was preparing you for this point. Every collapse, every transformation, every fracture. The field did not break you. It trained you. It made you sensitive to the signal. It taught you to listen deeper than fear. It taught you to follow the whisper before the evidence. You are standing in a new reality. The transmission is not asking if you are ready. It is telling you that you already are. The doubts you once carried do not belong in this identity. The fear you once believed is not part of this timeline. The stories that shaped your survival have no role in your expansion. The transformation is complete the moment you decide to stop returning to the version of yourself that no longer exists. There is a final truth you must accept. The world will not change first. You must change first. You must speak differently. You must think differently. You must choose differently. You must move differently. When your energy leads, the universe follows. When your identity leads, reality reorganizes. When your soul stands at the center of your life, the field clears the path. This is where many people hesitate. They wait for external signs. They wait for approval. They wait for certainty. But the final transmission does not come through comfort. It comes through decision. The field responds to those who step forward without waiting. It responds to those who trust the signal more than they fear the unknown. You already know the next step. The mind may resist it. The ego may question it. The old identity may try to protect itself. But the transmission is stronger than fear. The voice within you is louder than doubt. You have already felt the direction pulling you forward. The future is not a mystery. It is a memory your soul has been carrying. When you speak from this identity, the world responds. When you walk with this frequency, the universe rearranges. When you act from this consciousness, you become the catalyst. The shift does not happen around you. It happens through you. You are the one moving reality forward. You are the one transmitting the field into form. This transmission carries a calling, not a command, a calling to rise, a calling to embody, a calling to share the frequency of awakening with those who are still asleep, not to convince them, not to rescue them, to demonstrate what happens when someone chooses consciousness over fear. Your life becomes the signal. Your presence becomes the transmission. Your embodiment becomes the invitation. The final transmission does not end with understanding. It ends with action. Action from identity. Action from awareness. Action from the knowing that your next chapter has already begun. There is no going back. There is no collapsing into the past. There is no shrinking into the old timeline. The threshold has closed behind you. This is the moment where you breathe differently, where you speak differently, where you move differently. You stand in your new identity and you let the field flow through you. You trust your path even when you cannot explain it. You honor your intuition even when others cannot see it. You follow the calling without hesitation. The final transmission asks one thing: share your awakening, not through preaching, through being, through presence, through the frequency you carry. Let your evolution become the reminder that others are capable of their own. Let your transformation become the map for those who will walk their journey next. The field keeps expanding through every soul that rises, through every identity that awakens, through every timeline that turns. You are part of that expansion now. You are part of that consciousness. You are part of the energy that is redesigning this reality. The final transmission is not the ending of your story. It is the beginning of the story you were born to live. You are standing at the doorway of your new timeline. The universe is not asking you to wait. It is asking you to step forward. And as you step forward, the world shifts with you. If you felt this journey, if something inside you awakened, if the field spoke to you through these words, honor the signal, share the frequency, carry this awakening into the world. The ceremony is complete. The transmission is done. The rest of your life begins here.